right. Well, hello and welcome to the Women Who Make Us Wine show. This is our first episode. Jim Morris, one of my favorite people in the world, who is a big deal at Charles Krug Winery, the oldest winery in Napa. And I cooked up this idea a few months ago, and here we are finally with our first guests, Breathless Wines owner Sharon Cohn and Winemaker of the Year, Penny Gadd-Coster, who has such a great story to tell. And Sharon, you know, we're just so blown away by your amazing wines and your marvelous marketing materials. I'm gonna hold on to this glass of the wine that Penny made until the end of the show, but it's just thrilling to have you here and to have this fun conversation. So I'm gonna throw it over to Jim, who has a bunch of questions for you guys. And we just are excited that you're here. So take it away, sir.
Thank you, Hope, and welcome again, Sharon and Penny. This is a thrill to have both of you here, and it's such an honor and privilege to have you as my very first guests on our newly hatched podcast, Women Who Make Us Wine. And the idea, really quickly on the show itself, really has to do with the idea of highlighting all of the great women, not just on the front side of the wine business, of the winery owners and the winemakers, but every woman that's had an opportunity to bring wine to people and sell wine and market wine and talk about wine, and it's so giving them a spotlight to do it. And when Hope originally came to me, I said, "Why do you want a guy doing this?" I still don't know why she wants me doing it, but I've encountered so many amazing women in this whole, my 20 plus years in the wine business. And it really is, it's such a cool community. And I wanted to do something to highlight and do things to spotlight what they do. So, and Penny was one of my very first people I ever followed on Twitter. So when I was going back to my original roots of who I wanted to have on first, I said, "Oh, I'm going to go back to the OGs and just." And so anyway, and she's been doing such an amazing things, and her partnership with Sharon and her sisters has been nothing short of remarkable. So I said, "Let's do this." So anyway, so this is, and so here we are, a little Sunday morning brunch activity. Hopefully, the tens of thousands of you that are watching us live around the world right now. We're working on having the Women Who Make Us Wine blimp. Eventually, we'll be circling all of the areas we're going to, but for now, welcome to the show, and thanks for being on with us. So Sharon, I'm going to start with you, because this kind of all started with you and your sisters. And so I'd love to just have you tell us a little bit about your journey in starting Breathless Wines.
Well, first off, we're just honored to be here. Hope and Jim, thank you so much for having Penny and I on. This is really fun and honored to be your first. Well, way back when, my sister two of three, that's Rebecca. She and her partner, Bruce Lundquist, and Penny as their winemaker, started Rack Riddle, which is a custom crush facility now located in Healdsburg. At that point, it was up a little bit further north, but now a little bit more convenient for everyone. So they started off just with perfect timing and really focused on sparkling wines. And because of Penny's background, it was the perfect launch for that. Of course, they did still wines too, but it was all really focused on creating that sparkling wine that Penny can create so beautifully. So they forged relationships with growers in, Carneros, in the best sparkling wine growing areas. And from there, they got it going. Our mom, Martha Jane, she passed away, and we really wanted to do something in her honor. She has a disease called alpha-1, which is basically like emphysema, though she never smoked a day in her life. But her inspiration and the way she lived, taking no breath for granted, every single moment, just really inspired us, as well as just the way we created our lives for us to really engage with the big and the small moments of our life and celebrate. And I was just telling Penny that she has some chocolate chip cookies there on her table. And it just brought me back to my mom. Every day she would have chocolate chip cookies, warm chocolate chip cookies on our counter where we got up and, you know, started our homework with her. My parents were both teachers, so school was really important, but that was always, you know, the reward. So it just brought me back and it really made me smile, Penny. That was so cool. So my sister, you know, having Rack Riddle and having the availability to move forward with our brand, and we checked, you know, the trademarks for the name. We really wanted to do Breathless for, you know, really for, you know, the breathless moments in our lives. And it was available. Couldn't believe it, but we were so excited about that. And then asked Penny if she would be our winemaker, and she said yes. And so that was a very special day. So we forged forward. We started out with 3 sparkling wines. And I would say now we have over 10 with some really beautiful single vineyard that we're going to get to see today, which is something very new and very exciting, as well as the Lake Sports. It's 10 years on the leaves. That's going to be coming out later on this year. So that's pretty much how it went. And my sister actually found our logo, Sister 3 of 3, Cynthia. So she's our girl on the label, and she just looks like she's gonna go live a breathless life, and we all want to go wherever she's going.
I agree. I'm ready to join you. That sounds fabulous. Penny, you're a legend in this business. And you really are. And it's like you're very humble and you're very sweet. But it's like you have such great respect around the business. And one of my best friends has great respect for you, our mutual friend Odette. But tell us a little bit more about your journey in the wine business, and especially because you're the master of bubbles too, and how you evolved into that side from regular winemaking.
So this is actually, I consider this kind of my third career going into winemaking. I worked for the government for a few years working on some solar energy projects. And then from there, went into the medical field, working in emergency rooms for a few years, wanting to be potentially a physician. And at some point, I met my husband actually in the emergency room, not because he was a patient, he was a police officer. And at some point, we both decided that we wanted to maybe change our careers. Working in medicine, working in law enforcement is not easy and not always very fulfilling. And so I grew up, gone to high school in Livermore, and grew up with a couple of the Wenties, and had some friends that went into winemaking. And at some point, I went and talked to one of my friends. He was in St. Helena at the time. And I said, can like normal people get into the wine business? And he said, yes, of course. You know, you've got the science background, and yeah, you'll be a shoo-in. So both my husband and I decided to sell our house. We sold it in a couple of weeks. We moved to Sonoma County, and here we are. I started out at Jordan Vineyards and Winery and worked my way up from crush help into an enology position. And while I was there, they started the J Sparkling Project. And it's funny because I still call J the J Sparkling Project because that's what it was way back in the beginning before they had a facility and were full on winemaking. So Oded was the winemaker at the time, and he said, "Gee, you know, we're looking for somebody as an assistant winemaker." I went and had a little nosh with Oded, and he hired me. So I made the move from the still winery to the sparkling winery. And from there, then I worked my way up into the winemaker position. And then after a few years, I heard a little bit about another winery starting up, a sparkling winery, and got an interview with Rack Riddle. They were just starting out, and they hired me. So from there, I just worked my way up, even from the position that I originally started there to executive director of winemaking. And then in 2007, I think 2010, then Breathless was getting going, and Rebecca came and said, gee, what would you think about being our winemaker for Breathless? You've been making the wines for a couple of years, and because it takes a couple of years before you have wines ready to go. And I said, absolutely. So working with the three sisters, it was really kind of a dream come true. It kind of brought me back into the smaller realm of winemaking that you really get to put your heart and soul into. That working for a larger winery, you put your heart and soul into that too, but it's not quite the same as seeing a brand and starting that out and moving it along and really feeling like you're a part of it. So that's really kind of my story.
Well, it's a great story, and the fact that you guys have come together at Breathless, it was meant to be, because it just was one of those the true kismet of the wine business. I've been in the business for 20 some odd years, and one of the things that I had never considered the adult beverage business as a career until I was forced to. My previous life the business had changed dramatically, and I was living in Healdsburg at the time and didn't know what to do, and started looking toward, a lot of my friends were in the wine business. And what I always like to find out, and I'll ask this both of Sharon and Penny, that it's like, when somebody comes to you and said, I'm really interested in the business, other than the logical answer of, you are crazy to get into this business, what are some of the reasons to get into this business, and what's the advice you give to people that would love to be in this business and be part of it?
I recommend to people, if you really want to do something that people enjoy, and for me, it's being able to do something that people like, enjoy, makes them happy. I wake up in the morning and I go, God, how great is it to get up and be able to make wine? I feel like I've kind of somebody, just moved me in this amazing direction, because it was nothing that I had thought about doing in the very beginning of my working life. So, what I would really recommend to them is, if you're really looking for something that is a nice mix of science and creativity, and something that makes people smile, something that you can share with people, this is the place to be. But it's a difficult business to get into, and it is, you're not going to become a millionaire. You really do this because you want your heart and soul in that business. So yeah, probably not going to be a millionaire. Some people make it. Most of us just enjoy being winemakers.
One of the jokes about being in the wine business is, if you want to, if you want, I'm terrible at jokes, and this isn't really a joke, but if you want to make $1 million, in the wine business, you better start with $1 billion. there's a big hole, especially if you decide that you want to make it, you know, you want the land and you want to grow the grapes and you want to tend the grapes and all of that, all the way through bringing it to the consumer. There's a lot of moving parts that have to happen. And it's a labor of love. It definitely is. The beauty about Rack Riddle is that you can, you know, bring your own grapes, your own juice, or you can have Rack Riddle actually create theirs from the beautiful grapes that they have, and with Penny's watching over them. So there's lots of options there, which make it easier to start your own label these days. So Custom Crush has really come into its own, and having the availability of a sparkling has, you know, just added one more line to a lot of wineries to be able to have that fun special bubble along with the beautiful whites and reds that they make as well, and not have to invest in all of the amazing equipment that goes along with it.
Yeah.
I mean, if you come to Breathless, we can take you on tours soon as we're open again, and we can take you inside. But everything has been roboticized, which is just amazing to watch. And you know, it's pretty well hands-free. Nobody's touching anything. So in this crazy time, that's also a really great thing. And I guess my passion comes from building business. From B.R. Cohn, we started in 1984, and that was before a lot of wineries were around. So it was a fun time then. Everybody knew everybody in the valley, and that was in Sonoma Valley. And I started the olive oil company. So that was a new and exciting boutique business, and just loved building that business and finding new places to share it. And then I started Massage Envy, a couple of franchises in Sonoma, which again was building a business. And so with Breathless, I knew, you know, I probably had one more starting from scratch to go. And I love the growth of it. I love seeing people enjoy it. I love people in the tasting room. So I'm so happy that we're actually going to open up outside, coming up on Thursday again. So that's the reward, is seeing people really enjoying it, being out there and saying, oh my gosh, I have 3 sisters, or I have 2 sisters, and just connecting on the level that you are.
I have to tell you, when I went and picked up the wines, it's like it's such a charming and beautiful little spot. It's like it is a place I just want to go and hang out. And I highly recommend anybody that's listening to this or that's anywhere near Healdsburg, go and visit, because it's the coolest little. It's just like this oasis in this, you know, in the middle of Healdsburg, right off the plaza. So go see it. I hope you wanted to ask them a question.
I do. This is so exciting. You know, I think everybody fantasizes a little bit about what would it be like to be in this business, because it feels so sexy and romantic. And the way you guys have created it, not only are the wines fantastic, but it's like going into some fairy tale, you know? And so I'm just wondering, what does it feel like to be at the helm of this, Sharon? And also Penny, you know, like what is the magic behind what you're doing? So Sharon, let me throw it over to you. Just the guts of it, you know, what is it like to own a winery?
Oh, it's well, it's to pinch myself and even think that I do, because you get into the day-to-day of a business, and just, you know, there's your list, and you run after it every day. But like an experience like this, we get to take a moment and pause and look back and acknowledge the things that have occurred. We've had a lot of luck. Timing has been on our side for sparkling wines, in my opinion. It's definitely increased. People aren't just using it for celebrations. It's for brunch. It's for, you know, getting together. It's for today, you know. So being a part of that and watching that grow has been really rewarding too. So it's wonderful, and to be working with, and Penny is an adopted sister, so working with the four of us together and creating things that people really enjoy, and our connection. They, when they send us Instagram pictures and Facebook pictures of them celebrating out wherever they happen to be with people that they love. That's what it's all about. That's what it's all about.
And you have this amazing video that what you get when you go to the landing page of breathlesswines.com, and it's this gorgeous couple going out like on a Vespa into the vineyard with a saber. And having a saber like lop off the top of the wine bottle has become a signature for you guys. Sharon, tell us a little bit about that. And then Penny, I have a few questions for you.
Oh, well, the first thing I learned about sparkling wine, and I've always loved it, but when we started the business, that was amazing. I first saw this Frenchman, and I guess he does the world most sabers in, I don't know, an hour or something like that. And he does it the 1st of January every year. And he has these bottles just lined up on this table, and he's just boom, 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 and just going crazy with it. So the first time I tried it, it was just so empowering. And when kids and husbands see their wife doing it, they're just like, whoa, that's awesome. And then you get to enjoy it afterwards because, all the glasses has blown away. It's funny. We're even going to start a savoring group where they do things where they start off with learning. We actually teach people how to do it at the tasting room. So that's so much fun. And it's mostly their first time. So that first time is just very, very special. We get to enjoy it, film it for them, give them a certificate, the whole thing.
Awesome.
But Napoleon, he pretty much started it way back in the day. And the countrymen would throw him bottles of champagne and all his men as he was going through the towns. And instead of stopping and opening it up properly, he'd just take his saber and whack it off, and they'd start drinking, which was a little bit dangerous because it's pretty sharp. But his saying was always, in victory and in defeat, one always needs champagne.
Yeah, I'm with that. So Penny, you talked a lot about your story and how you got to where you are now. So talk a little bit about the science of this. How do you make a really good sparkling wine? What's the magic in there?
It's magic. I can't tell you. And that's where the great part of the science and the creativity really come together. Knowing how the yeast work, how to get the right amount of bubbles, aging time, but then the creativity part of putting together the base wines, what's going to work and what's it going to be like 3 years down the line after the bubbles have formed. And it really does take a lot of time. I've been in the business almost 35 years, and I'm still learning how to kind of craft these things. And everybody that does sparkling, there's a lot of actually mystery with a lot of what we do and how it comes out. And it's always amazing to me after 2 years, and I go back to those bottles and there's bubbles in them, and they're doing what they're supposed to be doing, and nice mouth feels. And it's still kind of a bit of a miracle sometimes, even though I've been doing it and now it's kind of almost second nature. It's still, this wonderful thing that happens in the bottles, because really the making of the bubbles happens in the bottle for the method that we're using, which is the traditional method champenoise. There are other ways to get bubbles in wine, but really the way we're doing this traditional champagne method, it is, I remember the very first time kind of working with these and disgorging for the first time. And I was so nervous because I thought, oh my God, is there going to be bubbles in there? And there was. Fortunately, as a microbiologist, I also understand how yeast work. So even though I knew they were going to eat the sugar, I knew they were going to make bubbles, I was still a little bit nervous about how that was all going to work. And now I'm not as nervous about that part of it as I am about, how is everything going to come together at the end of a couple of years time, that you're really kind of ignoring these. They're really kind of in their little beds and waiting for the time to come out and be disgorged. So they go through a lot of growth during that time, and it's you sometimes just don't know what you're going to end up with at the end. So yeah, pretty exciting stuff.
Yeah, it's very
One
cool.
of the things one of the things I love about the fact about bubbles in general is they're generally for, I mean, they're celebratory, and they're the start of something. They're the start of breakfast. They're the start of a great celebration. Tell me your very favorite story with champagne. Is there one memory that it's like, that was the most magical bottle of sparkling or bubbles that I've ever had? And where were you and who were you with? And that's for both of you.
Go ahead, Penny.
Wow. Well, I have a story. It wasn't necessarily the best bottle I ever had, but I was just kind of starting out at J, and somebody gave me a bottle off of the disgorging line. And I was so excited because I was going to take this bottle to a girls' night out. The two women that I was meeting with both had been working for Schransberg for a while, and they actually kind of knew what the process was. They knew what disgorging was. And, I'm brand new and I'm still trying to kind of figure out the lingo. So I went to meet with them, and I set this bottle down and I said, this was just disgorged, but I have no idea if it's going to have bubbles or not. And they both just rolled laughing because they knew that at that point it definitely would have bubbles. So it was a very special moment when we did open it, and yes, indeed, there were bubbles in it. So it's one of my favorite stories to tell people when they're kind of starting out and they're going, oh my gosh, what does this mean? Or, where in the process is this? And, it takes a little while to kind of learn that process. So that was a special bottle for me because it actually was where it was supposed to be.
And I have to say
Sure.
that Penny, every time she does a tasting with our team, she's always delighted. It doesn't get old for her. She's always delighted at the process and what became these bubbles and this drink, and it just gets you excited about it. So it is always fun to do a tasting with you because you incite excitement in us. For me, I have a group of women. We've been together forever, and we play mahjong. And we took a trip to a friend of ours, Elise and Richard Arrowwood. They have a beautiful place up in Montana. So we all headed up on a road. Well, we took the plane, but it was a little road trip too. And he, was just the host with the most. He brought out a 1975 Laurent Perrier. I actually have the bottle, but I peeled off the label, and right now I can't find it. But it was such a treat. He said he had bought 2 bottles, and he brought one out for us to enjoy. And I graduated from high school that year, so it was really, really special, and all of us were just so honored that he would share a magnum of that with us. So. That's my story.
From the wine selling side, because ultimately we're in the business to sell wine, and we do it in a lot of different ways. We do it. It's like with Breathless, you have this beautiful tasting room. You obviously sell it in fine wine shops and restaurants around, and there are just tremendous challenges in doing this, and how to be distinct, and how to get the attention of distributors and so on. What are some of the biggest challenges that you face, and what is it that you're doing that will make you stand out in the crowd and get people to pay attention to you?
Well, I think number one, people look to us because we're women in the wine business, and that's a pretty big deal. It's pretty male dominated, although even from my past, I've always believed that women were the winemakers and had the palate. And so in 1984, when we started BR Cohn, Helen Turley was our first winemaker, just her first gig. So it was just kind of this natural thing that happened. So when Penny was there, it was like very natural. But then when you look around, you're like, wow, this is big. This is very big. And as long as she's been in this business, it's huge. And the accolades that she's gotten along the way, and the background that she has and brings forth with her, it's pretty special. And we decided not to do the distributor. We started off doing it, and they really wanted to sit us down and say, you need to completely change your label. This is not going to sell in the marketplace. And let's sit down and start from scratch. And we sat down with them and just looked at them and said, but we're not going to change it. This is who we are. This is the fun. This is what we want to. This is what we want to bring to the world. We have the bubbles with Penny, and we love this label, and it really represents who we are. So doing the direct to consumer in our tasting room and having people come in and be able to taste and meet us, and Penny's walking through every once in a while, and they get to see and meet her, and she's so wonderful with everyone there too, and events. So that's really, for us, has been the best way. But you also know that you're only going to get to a certain point. You can only bring in so many people, and only so many people can get to your tasting room. They're living in the Midwest, they're living in the East Coast, they're all over the United States, and we would love to be able to touch them. So while COVID's been going on, we've been working on an ambassador community. So basically, people can take our wines and share it with others, and they can make money, and we get the wine out there with more people, and they can actually create a business with it. So that's what we are launching in March, and we're really excited about something new. And sharing wine in the world is, I think, something that we all love to do. We all love to bring our special bottle over to a friend's house, when we're having a party. Like, I want to share this with you. So we see that happening, and we're really excited about it.
I'm going to jump in here for a second, because I just want to applaud you, woman, because, it gets really complicated when it's business and you're in a male dominated business. That was one of the reasons I really wanted to do this, especially with Jim, to answer his question, why, because all these amazing people, right? So of course I wanted to. But to stand up and say, no, we're not going to do that. We're not going to change. This is who we are. Incandescent Women is our magazine, and that is the message, right? You got to stand up for what you know is right, because why do it the way everyone else has? So I'm thrilled about your ambassador community, and I hope that Incandescent can help you spread that fantastic word, because this stuff is really, really delicious.
There's nothing better than wine Tupperware parties.
Right?
It's the more fun version of Amway or something like that. It's like, I've seen a handful of other wineries that have done it, and it is a fascinating thing. John Charles, I think, is the leader in of that, but it's a fascinating way. Because I was curious to find out how you've adapted, in COVID times when nobody can come to the winery. It's like, how are you bringing the winery to the people? And
Yeah, well, it's been a different change and a different way of getting the wine out there. We literally had almost zero web sales before COVID, and it just had to switch over, and thankfully it did. So the web sales were how we kept the wine going out there, and we put out some specials, and our members were so wonderful and supportive, as well as, past purchasers and things like that. So we're grateful. We're grateful, very grateful.
Now, Penny, do you get involved with the virtual tastings and as well?
Yeah,
I think
as
it'd be
much
a
as
blast
possible.
to have you.
Yeah, I really think that it's something that I kind of wished we had done or had thought of before. This is really a great way to reach people all over the world. Gosh, for probably over 20 years, I used to belong to a listserv, and actually it's still alive. That was a food and wine listserv.
Hmm.
And one of the great things about that is that we could reach out to people all over the world and have this community that all appreciated wine and food. And we would exchange recipes and wines that went with them. And then when you could Skype or, and actually do these video conferencing, again, people didn't have to travel very far or travel at all. And the reach on this is huge. And I know I've heard a lot of people say, gosh, not having the face-to-face contact is kind of disappointing, or it kind of holds things off. And for me, it's been great. I've actually been able to see people, in Europe that I wouldn't have ever met before through this media. And so I think this has been kind of a great way to meet people, show what we're doing. I think the virtual tastings were pretty successful. I really enjoyed doing them, and being able to actually talk to people and not be worried that anybody had to go too far or they couldn't attend. So I really have enjoyed them.
Yeah, who knew a year ago, we're just used to doing our own thing, and the 3D version of our customers would come into the tasting room, and now all of a sudden the 2D version has to, it has to do and keep us alive and well. So yeah, no, it has been a fascinating time. And in fact, I'm gonna have to sign up for one of your virtual tastings, because I would love to taste bubbles with you guys. Your wines are just lovely to begin with. So I've been familiar with them for a while and all that. So moving ahead on the challenges that that you see when you build out, as you start thinking about the after times, as I refer to them, it's like, tell me some of the challenges that you see ahead of you that you really, it's like you relished it, but it's also going to be a battle to get it going. What do you see ahead for that?
Wow. Well, for us, it's going to be keeping the traditional Breathless Wines, our location, our members, just really catering to them and building out this new ambassador community together. And the marketing, hope you can probably imagine, we're going to be going in 2 different directions. And we're already seeing how challenging that's going to be. But, we want to keep it real and about what it's about, and people celebrating breathless moments with each other. So if we just keep that in mind, I think we'll be okay. But it's, just going out, having people come in, having them feel safe is the key. And so we're doing everything we can around that. And then the challenge is always, wintertime, it's cold outside. And if we have to stay outside for a while, it's tough. And even when it gets super hot, because it does in Healdsburg, it was always nice for them to be able to come into the air conditioning and get cool, or take a tour, and get into the cool. So the challenge will be when we can really open 100% again, and do it the best we can, but I think a lot of what we are bringing with COVID is going to stand. It's going to stand because it's going to be with us. So we all have to pretty much understand that, I think.
Yeah.
Penny, being the nurse that she is, she keeps us.
I
Well,
pushed you people.
Well, and Penny, in the last few years, the challenges on the winemaking side have been more numerous than any of us care to admit or want. And I think all we have left in the pandemic thing are frogs and locusts. So once we get the frogs and locusts done, I think we're back into safe territory. But from a winemaking standpoint and from a growing standpoint, it's like, I believe that there's significant climate change going on. It will dramatically affect our business. Moving forward, we've been experiencing fires and floods and hot temperatures and cool temperatures and anomalies on the wine side of things, the weather side of things. Tell me your thoughts on what the climatic conditions are doing, and where you're thinking, and then how you adapt to some of the changes and what you're doing to prevent forest fires.
I wish I could prevent forest fires. I think that's a little out of my hand. However, it has been interesting, watching the changes. Like I say, I've been kind of in the industry for almost 35 years. And, what I used to say was a normal year, I probably haven't seen in at least 10, what I would consider an average or normal year. And I remember last year kind of going, oh, gee, this is kind of starting out. It's actually looking like an average year. And then it just kind of went downhill real fast. Between fires and drought, the rain stopped. So, trying to adapt to some of those changes actually in the winery and still making well-crafted wines has definitely become a challenge. I've always considered myself a pretty hands-off winemaker and really letting the fruit kind of show itself. And we've definitely had some years where that was a real challenge to get good wine, between having things like not enough water so they ripen too quickly, or just the heat and they're ripening too quickly, or they're ripening in an area that molds are becoming worse because it's a little bit warmer. So there's definitely a lot of challenges out there to crafting even sparkling wines, and sparkling wines come in a lot earlier than most still wines. But with that, we're still seeing those issues with those wines. They're fortunately, I haven't seen them coming in necessarily earlier, but they're coming in with more problems and more challenges than I've seen in the past, that then have to be dealt with in the cellar a little bit differently. How we're pressing them, how we're crafting them, what yeasts we're using, things like that. So it's definitely been a learning curve. I don't think we're going to see this change back to any kind of what we considered average at any time at this point. I think we do have to really look at how we are dealing with grapes and winemaking and what we're planting and where we're planting them. Some of those things are changing. People are already kind of changing what their fields actually have, changing cover crops, lots of different things, how we're pruning, all of these things that are dealing with climate change. And then you look even going into Europe and the Champagne region, they have some pretty strict guidelines there, and they're having to really kind of relook at that because of the climate change. They can't follow the rules anymore. So that's, it's definitely a changing world in the wine business.
Yeah, one thing I never thought I would hear 20 years ago is the sentence, English sparkling wines.
Yes.
It's like, and now there's, there's a huge number of wineries in England and in other places. And one of my heroes in the wine business is Paul Dolan. And I grew up in Ukiah and knew Paul a long time. And I got the privilege to work with him at one point. And I remember him in an interview once, hearing him talk about the fact that he felt this was, God, 15 years ago. He goes, Mendocino County is going to be the next Napa because of climate change. And he says it has the same terroir, the same everything. It's just, he says, but where the temperatures are shifting, he says, just watch Mendocino County. And he was very, prescient in that thought. And it was, but it's really becoming evident, whether you subscribe to the climatic change philosophy or not, we're seeing it front lines and firsthand. And it's, things are very different than they were, 15, 20 years ago. And it's not just a seasonal or cyclical thing. So yeah, but this is, to me, this is the testament to what makes great winemakers, is learning and adapting and figuring it out. And somehow the wine industry has been around for about 3,000 years, and there's a reason that it has survived multiple world wars and other pandemics, and the conquerors and conquerees, and it still is this, and it thrives, and it's such a beautiful, lovely business and industry to be in. So what's probably the biggest thing you're looking forward to, even in the next, let me rephrase that. What's the one thing that you look forward to the most accomplishing in your remaining 50 years in the wine business? I'm very optimistic. I refer to my age right now as the middle 50 years. So it's the last 50 years that I worry about, but the first 50 were great fun. But in that, but in the future, what's one accomplishment that you really, really want to achieve, personally or professionally?
Well, for me, seeing, it was really interesting, kind of going back to being a woman in the wine industry. It's been really fun and great to see more and more women getting into the industry. And there's becoming a little more mentoring. There are some women groups, women winemaker groups, and just women in the wine industry in general, kind of getting together and kind of figuring out the path and how you can do this wonderful business. So I'm really excited. I've had the opportunity to do some mentoring. I love doing that, encouraging women to get into the business, and I hope that continues. I do see that we've made some great strides in the industry. There still is a little bit of some issues out there. You will in any industry. It's no different. But definitely we've made some great strides, and it's funny because I don't often like to think of myself as being unusual in the business, and I kind of forget that sometimes until I'm talking to a group of women who are maybe struggling with some of the issues out there. And I really, really hope that we can kind of continue the mentoring and encouraging women just to get into science in general. I mean, this is kind of a scientific field, and women can do this, and just not even. I hope that at some point women don't see themselves as being unusual in any kind of a profession.
Agreed. Sharon, what do you hope to accomplish that you haven't accomplished yet?
Wow, with Penny's winemaking, it's been pretty amazing what has happened. Even in COVID, becoming winery of the year and having Forbes mention, it's like keep pinching yourself. But I think for me and touching people, especially with the ambassador community and at our tasting room, it's if you have a passion, no matter what it is, go after it with everything you have and find those people that can mentor and inspire you, like a Penny Gadd-Coster, and you can do it. And you can do it. And I think that seeing people doing it is a way that people get that reality, and you just have to dig deep and say, this is what I want, and I'm going for it.
I can't believe it's taken me almost an hour to actually ask you to talk about your wines. It's like, here we have all these beautiful wines and you have those beautiful bottles sitting in front of you, and we have yet to have you tell us about what we're drinking, and especially this single vineyard project that you've started. And I was wondering if Sharon and Penny, if you guys can touch on your great lineup of wines. Don't worry, I believe in shameless commerce, and you're going to have opportunity at the end of this for the thousands of people that are going to see this video. You'll have an opportunity to sell wine to them as well, but we'll talk about that. Tell us about the wines that you have here.
So this has been really exciting. It's always fun when you get to get an opportunity to do something a little bit different for your lineup. And at some point, we realized that we had some really special vineyards. And then one of these is also a clone selection. And it's one of my favorite sparkling wine clones, though a lot of people in the sparkling world would go, really? You like that clone? Because it is a very Burgundian clone for still wine. But what it lends to sparkling wine is really exciting. So anyway, when Sharon and Rebecca and Cynthia said we wanted to start doing some things, some special wines, this was some of the first things that we kind of jumped onto. And so we actually have two vineyard selections. One is out of the Russian River. The other one is out of Sonoma Carneros. And then the third one is out of a Sonoma Carneros vineyard, but it is a Pommard clone. So it's 100% a Pommard clone. And again, a lot of people would go, oh, gee, that's what you would want for Burgundy. But really what it lends to sparkling wine into making what is a Blanc de Noir, which is the white of the black. It really lends this really beautiful kind of earthy, but still you have a little bit of cherry note in there. It really is beautiful. And because it's a sparkling wine, there isn't a lot of color to it. And, a little earlier, there was kind of a question about some of the things that make us stand out maybe from another sparkling house. And one of those things is that I really don't like to manipulate the grapes. I really want them to stand on their own. And so these are really great examples of some of those wines that really are able to kind of stand on their own and show themselves off, not only for the regions, but for the type of grape they are. So one of them is a Chardonnay grape. That was this McMinn vineyard, which is a Blanc de Blanc, white of white. And then the other two, the Blanc de Noirs, showing off their areas and their selections as well. So pretty exciting. Sometimes because we do want the grapes to show up, they may not be as traditional as some people are looking for. When we were talking about distributors, you know, they have kind of a focused idea of what a Blanc de Noir should be, or what a Blanc de Blanc should be. And that's really difficult when you're trying to kind of feature your grapes and not follow just a tradition. Anything you want to add to our lineup here?
Well, I hope I didn't space out, but the one is a no dose, which is
Yes.
and that is super special and actually my favorite. So it was just perfect the way it was, and we decided that we weren't going to add anything to it. So that's the McMinn, right?
That's been, yeah. And it's great because it really is showing off what that Chardonnay grape can bring without adding any dosage. So that's pretty exciting.
Yeah. So all these are super exciting.
Hope, is there any other questions that you wanted to ask? Because I feel like I could spend like hours just sitting around a fireplace talking and drinking wine and having charcuterie. Any other questions that you had?
Well, yeah, you know, I mean, you guys are so inside this business, right? And I just know that it tastes good. So I think we're going to have Penny back on to give us a primer. So those of us who want to learn more about really the science of this and encourage other women and girls to get into the business, I think that would be great. Sharon, I just want to take a bath, take a little swim in your glass there that you have up on your side. Right, it reminds me of Charlie's Angels, that scene, doing that little sexy dance. But no, this has been great. This is the first of many conversations we hope to have with Breathless Wine. We really want to learn more about your ambassador program so that women everywhere can help other women, you know, grow their businesses, enjoy themselves, laugh and play together, right? That's the job, and that's sort of the silver lining of COVID, right? We've all had to adapt. You guys especially, because you're so public facing. But now, you know, you've expanded, it's online, and you actually probably can reach more people and be more powerful. At least that's my hope for you all. So thank you, from the incandescent bottom of my heart. I really appreciate you all being here. Jim, great job for our first show on Women Who Make Us Wine.
Other than those little technical difficulties and all that.
Yeah, we weren't live on Facebook, but we will be. And we're working it out, you know, like everything, life is a work in progress. So we're just putting it out there and doing the best we can and keeping showing up, right? What else can you do?
Yeah.
Well done, both of you.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. Well, and to those that are watching and made it through at least my banter. One of the things that I love is about small businesses, especially, and it's like, these are the people that you should be buying from. These are the people that you should support and tell your friends about, because it's like they're just doing what they love, and it's like it shows in what they do and how they do it. And yeah, screw what the distributors say about your label having to do that. It's like, don't get me started on that topic. But yeah, but it's like, you know, you got to be true to yourself, and you have to, you know, there are tens of thousands of wine labels to choose from, and probably equal number of European labels. And it's just like, but now you guys have had a chance to meet some of the real people behind the real stories of all this. And so if we wanted to purchase some of your wines, how do we do that? And
Well, you can definitely Google us, give us a call. We'll definitely help you in that way, or you can go on to our shop wines at breathlesswines.com. And I would love to put up a special for the incandescent woman. So I'm thinking the code's going to be I can, and we'll have that code up there for 15% off.
Oh, wow, that's great. So and you guys are part of the February 2021 issue of Incandescent Women magazine. This is our love issue, and there's no better way to celebrate love, I think, than with some Breathless wine. and just really thrilled to have met you ladies. I toast to your success. You're amazing. You're amazing joy. Doing what you know is right. Is there anything better than that, right? So cheers to Breathless. You are listening to the Women Who Make Us Wine show. I'm Hope Katz Gibbs, creator of Incandescent, here with my co-host Jim Morris from Charles Krug Winery, and just the best wine guy we know. So Penny, Sharon, thank you. Here's to your success. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you.
Cheers. Thank you.
Have a great week, everyone.